Good day, everyone. I am Mary Joyce Orsingsing from Group 4. On behalf of my group mates, I am here to give an introduction about the topic that is assigned to us. Some cross-cutting issues in gender and sexuality. So we're going to talk about how gender and sexuality intersect in different ways. It's a big deal because it helps us understand people better and how they experience the world. First is gender and labor. So, basically, gender and labor refers to the intersection of gender with work and employment. It encompasses how gender influences various aspects of the labor market, including wage disparities, occupational segregation, discrimination, and access to opportunities.
The discussion will cover three main areas: the foundational principles protecting women's rights at work, the current state of gender equality across various job markets, and the key rules or policies that aim to ensure fair treatment for all genders in the workplace. The objectives of this topic is to deepen our understanding of how gender roles affect employment, to assess how fair the workplace is for different genders, and to learn about the important policies that support gender equality in the labor market. It's about getting a clear picture of where we stand and what needs to be done to make sure everyone has equal opportunities at work.
First, let's move to the first topic under the gender and labor. It is the Magna Carta of Women. So, a little overview about Magna Carta of Women. It is also known as Republic Act number 9710, and it was enacted in the Philippines in 2009. It serves as a comprehensive legal framework to protect and promote women's rights across various domains. So, Magna Carta of Women, officially known as Republic Act number 9710, is a landmark legislation in the Philippines that aims to uphold and promote women's rights and gender equality. So under that is the equal opportunities. So it says here that the law mandates equal opportunities for women in education, employment, and career advancement. So yes, the Magna Carta of Women indeed emphasizes equal opportunities when it comes to education, employment, and career advancement. This means ensuring that women have the same chances as men to access education, pursue careers, and progress in their chosen fields, without discrimination or barriers based on gender. So, the next one is the anti-discrimination. It says here that employers are prohibited from discriminating against women based on gender. So, ang example nito is yung before daw, kapag nabuntis yung girl na hindi pa kasal, is na-expel siya sa school. Yung women na teacher, na-expel siya. Which is against siya rito which is under siya ng anti-discrimination kasi yung mga employers is prohibited nga na i-discriminate yung babae based lang sa kanyang gender. Next one is maternity leave. It says here that the Magna Carta ensures maternity leave benefits for pregnant employees. So, under ng maternity leave is whether you're in a public sector or government or under the private. So, kapag ito ay nanganak ka, is mabibigyan ka ng leave with full payment. Pero, depende pa rin yon if kahit nasa private or public sector ka, mabibigyan ka lang ng full payment under ng maternity leave kapag nasa permanent position ka. So, kapag wala ka sa permanent position, kahit pa nasa public or private sector ka, is hindi ka mabibigyan ng full payment kasi nga contractual lang. So, walang employee to employer relationship. The next one is gender responsive budgeting. So, it says here that it emphasizes allocating resources to address gender specific needs. So, yes, gender responsive budgeting in the Magna Carta of Women means that when the government plans how to spend money, It considers the needs of both women and men equally. For example, let's say na yung isang city government is planning its budgets for the upcoming year. With gender-responsive budgeting, they would look at things like how much money is being spent on healthcare, education, and job training programs. They would then make sure that these services are accessible and beneficial to both women and men. So, this ensures that resources are distributed fairly and help address any inequalities that exist between genders. Now, let's move on to the next topic, which is the impact on gender equality in the labor market. So, under this, or equal pay, workplace policies, and representation. The first one is equal pay. It says here that the Magna Carta advocate for equal pay for equal work, bridging wage gaps. So, gender equality initiatives strive to ensure that women receive the same pay as men for doing equivalent work. This helps to close the gender pay gap, ensuring that women are compensated fairly for their contributions in the workplace. Dapat is nadja-justify ng work mo yung payment na natatanggap mo. And dapat fair ang pagbibigay at equal ang payment, mapababae man o mapalalaki, based sa contribution mo sa workplace. The next one is the workplace policies. It says here that it encourages policies that promote work-life balance, parental leave, and flexible work arrangements. So, gender equality in the labor market often leads to the implementation of these policies that support work-life balance, such as the parental leave, flexible work arrangement, and also childcare support. So, these policies benefit hindi lang yung babae, kundi rin yung mga lalaki, allowing them to better manage their professional and personal responsibilities. So, the next one is representation. So, it says here that the law aims to increase women's representation in leadership positions. So, gender equality efforts aim to increase the representation of women in all levels of the workplace, including na nga yung sa leadership positions and traditionally male-dominated fields. Diba? By promoting diversity and inclusion, organizations can benefit from a wider range of perspectives and experience, leading to better decision-making and innovation. So, hindi porke babae ka is hindi ka na pwede sa mga leadership position, sa mga matataas na position. Kaya nga ini-encourage ng representation ng Magna Carta of Women na mas mag-increase pa yung representation ng mga kababaihan sa iba't ibang trabaho, such as sa mga leadership positions, pagiging pulis, sundalo, ganyan. So, overall, achieving gender equality in the labor market not only promotes fairness and social justice, but it also has a positive economic implications as it allows for the full utilization of talent and potential regardless of gender. Now, let's move to the addressing discrimination against women. So, ito na yung mga discrimination na nararanasan ng mga kababaihan. The first one is sexual harassment. It says here that the Magna Carta defines sexual harassment and provides mechanisms for reporting and redress. So, if someone experiences sexual harassment, they have the right to report it, and there should be ways to help them. So, the Magna Carta of Women also makes sure that there are consequences for people who do sexual harassment. This is to make sure that everyone, especially women, feels respected and safe in different places such as on their workplace, school, and other public areas. The next one is gender stereotypes. It says here that it challenges stereotypes that limit women's career choices. So first, let's know what is gender stereotypes. So basically, gender stereotypes are deeply ingrained beliefs about how men and women should behave based on their gender. Magna Carta of Women says that people shouldn't be judged or treated differently just because they are male or female. It's like saying that and girls should both have the chance to do whatever they want. Mapalaro man to ng sports, studying science, maging scientists, or becoming leaders. The Magna Carta of Women encourages everyone to be treated equally and to respect each other's differences. It's all about fairness and giving everyone the same opportunities regardless of gender. Yeah, so dapat hindi porket babae ka is dapat nasa bahay ka lang, dapat yung mga gawain mo is para lang sa mga magagaan, while dapat sa kalalakihan is yung mga mabibigat na gawain. Well, sa ngayon, hindi na yon nagmamatter kasi dapat nga meron ng pantay na pagtrato sa kababaihan o kalalakihan, lalong-lalo na when it comes to workplace. The next one is career development. So it says here that the law promotes training and capacity building for women's career growth. So career development under the Magna Carta of Women refers to ensuring that women have equal opportunities for advancement and growth in their careers. Yan. It says here that women should not face barriers or discrimination based on their gender when it comes to accessing training, promotions, and leadership positions. So, in simpler terms, the Magna Carta of Women says that women should have the same chances as men to succeed in their careers. This means na they should be able to get the training they need, be considered for promotions, and have opportunities to take on leadership roles just like men do. So, ang goal nito is to create a fair and level playing field where everyone, regardless of gender, can reach their full potential in the workplace. Now, let's talk about the challenges and ongoing efforts of Magna Carta of Women. Under this is intersectionality, implementation, and awareness. So, the first one is intersectionality. It says here that recognizing that women's experiences vary based on other identities, such as race, disability, and more. So yeah, intersectionality in the Magna Carta of Women means that the Magna Carta of Women understands that women's experiences of discrimination and challenges can be influenced by various factors, just like their race, ethnicity, social class, disability, or other identities. For example, isang babaeng galing sa marginalized groups ay pwedeng mas maka-experience ng maraming obstacles when it comes to her career compared sa mga white women. Next one is, katulad lang din ng women na may disability, might encounter additional barriers in accessing education or healthcare unlike sa mga normal women. So, the Magna Carta of Women aims to address these differences by considering the various aspects of a woman's identity and ensuring na yung mga policies and programs na ginagawa nila is designed to meet the needs of all women regardless of their background. So it's about making sure that every woman has a fair chance to thrive and succeed no matter who she is or where she comes from. The next one is the implementation. So here is one of the challenges ng Magna Carta of Women. It says here that ensuring effective implementation at all levels remains a challenge. So one of the challenges of Magna Carta of Women is its implementation. Kasi nga, minimake sure nila na bawat provisions is nangyayari talaga in real life. Like real life experiences ba siya ng mga kababaihan, like gender equality, discrimination, and empowerment in society. So, another challenges ng Magna Carta of Women is awareness. It says here that many women are unaware of their rights under the Magna Carta. So dahil marami ang hindi aware sa rights nila, ang Magna Carta of Women is conducting education campaigns, dissemination of information through different media and channels, training and workshops, and through advocacy. Katulad nga ng ginagawa ko sa inyo and katulad ng mga seminars kung saan nagtutalk sila about rights ng mga kababaihan under the Magna Carta of Women. So, isa yun sa naging awareness, isa yun sa naging challenges ng Magna Carta of Women. Yung ipaalam sa mga kababaihan throughout the world kung ano nga ba yung rights nila under the Magna Carta of Women. So finally, empowering women's rights. The Magna Carta of Women is a powerful tool for advancing gender equality in the labor market. By understanding its provisions and advocating for its effective enforcement, we can create a more equitable and inclusive workplace for all. So yeah, by empowering women's rights, we create a more just, equitable, and inclusive society where all individuals, regardless of their gender, can reach their full potential and contribute to the common good of society. So that's all. Again, I am Mary Joyce Arsingsing. I am the first speaker of the topic. Thank you for listening.
Wage gap. When we talk about jobs and money, we often see that women and men don't always get paid the same. Even when they do the same kind of work, women usually get less money. This isn't fair, and it happens for many reasons. Sometimes it's because men and women are expected to do different kinds of jobs. Other times, it's because women might not ask for more money or because people have old ideas about who should earn more. Occupational segregation. In the world of work, certain jobs are filled mostly by men and others mostly by women. For example, we see more men working in tech jobs, building things, and engineering. On the other hand, we find more women in jobs that take care of others, like in hospitals, schools, or offices. This separation of jobs by gender can make the wage gap even bigger. Representation in leadership position. When we look at the big bosses in companies, we don't see as many women as we should. Women have a harder time getting to these top jobs. This can be because people still have some unfair ideas about women leaders or because women don't always get the help and chances they need to show they can lead just as well as men. Challenges faced by women. Women face many hurdles in the workplace. One big challenge is finding the right balance between work and home life. It's tough to do a good job and work and take care of a family at the same time. Another problem is the glass ceiling. It is an invisible from getting the top jobs no matter how hard they work. Women also deal with unconscious bias, where people don't realize they're treating women differently. And then there's intersectionality, which means women can face extra challenges because of their race, age, or other things, not just their gender. Progress and strategies. But there's good news too. People are working on making things better. They are trying to give everyone the same chances at work, no matter if they're a man or woman. Being clear about how much everyone gets paid can help make sure everyone's treated fairly. Some places use affirmative action to help women get jobs they're good at. Networking and mentorship can give women the support they need to succeed. And by breaking stereotypes, we can change the old ideas about what jobs men and women should do.
Good day, everyone. I am Vanessa Linde Chavez. My topic is salient policies on gender equality in the labor market. The first policy is equal pay for equal work. The rule of equal pay for equal work is a key rule to make sure everyone gets the same pay for the same job, no matter if they are a man or a woman. This rule is important in the Philippines to make sure everyone is treated fairly at work. Effectiveness evaluation. When we look at how well this rule works, we see some good things and some challenges. The good part is that more people know about the need for equal pay, and some jobs are starting to pay men and women the same. Women can also ask help if they are not paid fairly. But there are still places where this rule is not followed well, and men and women are not paid the same. This happens because of old ideas about what jobs men and women should do, how well they talk about their pay, and what people think without realizing it. To make the rule of equal pay better, we need to do a few things. First, we need to make sure that the rules are followed. This means checking on companies and making them face consequences if they don't pay everyone fairly. Second, we need to remember that not just gender but also race and disability can make pay unfair. So we should make special rules to fix these problems too. Lastly, it's important for companies to be open about how much they pay people, or what we call transparency. This helps everyone understand if they are getting paid the right amount compared to others. These steps will help make sure that everyone gets a fair chance and pay at work. The second policy is maternity leave provisions. Maternity leave is a crucial period provided for women for rest and family time after having a baby. This break from work aims to safeguard the mother's health, foster a strong connection with the newborn, and maintain the mother's employment status. When assessing the impact of maternity leave, it's clear that it offers significant benefits. It supports mothers' recovery and mental health, promotes the practice of breastfeeding, and shields them from workplace bias. However, the duration of leave is often too short, and the absence of similar leave for fathers affect their role in early childcare. Additionally, societal pressures can sometimes discourage women from fully utilizing their leave. To enhance maternity leave policies, there's a push to increase the time off given to mothers. This would align with global standards and ensure moms have ample time for recovery and bonding with their babies. Additionally, there's a growing movement to establish paternity leave, which would allow dads to take time off for childcare, promoting equality in parenting roles. Lastly, the concept of shared parental leave is gaining attraction, where both parents can split the leave time, encouraging fathers to be more involved in early child rearing. The third policy is about workplace anti-discrimination measures. Workplace anti-discrimination measures are rules set to ensure everyone is treated equally, regardless of their gender or other personal traits. These rules help make sure that all employees have the same opportunities when it comes to getting hired, moving up in their job, and how they are treated by others at work. Looking at how these measures work, they've been good at making workplaces welcoming for everyone and giving employees the confidence to speak up if they're treated unfairly. However, there are still challenges. Sometimes these rules aren't applied the way they should be, and hidden biases can still influence decisions. It's also important that all employees understand their rights, so they need clear information and training. To make workplace more fair, it's important to improve how discrimination is reported. This means making sure everyone knows the right way to report problems and having private ways to do so. Training is also key, helping people understand their hidden biases and learn to be more empathetic. Lastly, it's vital to welcome different kinds of people in the workplace, which means hiring a variety of people and celebrating what makes each person unique. The fourth policy is flexible work arrangements. Flexible work options are designed to help employees manage their professional and personal lives more effectively. These arrangements, which include working from home, part-time schedules, or sharing jobs, are especially helpful for women, enabling them to balance their careers with their family duties. In terms of benefits, such work setups have been shown to boost job performance and cut down on unexpected time off, which is good for both the staff and the company. They're also key in keeping talented women in the job market who might otherwise quit due to family needs. However, there are challenges to overcome, including the misconception that flexible work is less professional, the risk of missing out on career growth opportunities, and the fear that choosing a flexible schedule could negatively impact one's career path. It's important for organizations to address these issues to make flexible work truly beneficial for all employees. Improving flexible work policies involves changing how they're viewed in the workplace. It's about showing that employees can succeed even when they work differently than the traditional 8 to 4 time. For those who work flexibly, it's crucial to make sure they have the same chances to grow in their careers as others do. This means looking at what they achieve, not just how often they're seen at the office. Also, it's about making sure remote work is taken seriously and teaching bosses to focus on the results people deliver no matter where they work from. Last but not the least, promoting gender diversity in leadership. Promoting women in leadership is about giving them chances to lead and make decisions. This helps everyone because different views lead to better choices and new ideas. To do this, companies are using mentorship, setting goals for how many women should be in charge, and teaching women to be leaders. When we look at how well these efforts are working, we see that having a mix of men and women in charge is good for business. Companies with women in leadership often do better than those without. But it's not always easy. People don't like setting numbers for how many women should be in charge, and it can be hard to find women leaders to look up to. Also, sometimes people don't realize they're being biased. Teaching everyone about these biases and how to stop them is important. To better support women aiming for leadership, it's key to grow mentorship programs. This pairs them with mentors who can offer advice and help them connect with others. It's also important to get men involved as supporters of gender diversity, as their backing is important for making big changes. Lastly, keeping an eye on how well we're doing in getting more women into leadership is crucial. This means checking how many women are in charge regularly, setting goals, and watching how progress we're making towards those goals. The second topic is gender and media. The intersection of gender and media is a vital area of study, focusing on how different genders are portrayed and perceived in various media forms. This examination is crucial in understanding the influence media has on societal views of gender roles. The main points of discussion revolve around how media showcases different genders and the common stereotypes that are often reinforced through these portrayals. It's about looking at who gets represented and how, as well as the cliches that are perpetuated. The objectives here are to delve into why it's important for media to reflect a true variety of people and to recognize the strides made in presenting gender in a more balanced and progressive way. It's about acknowledging the power of media in shaping perceptions and celebrating the positive changes that have been made so far.
Number one, the power of media imagery. It is a media, whether through television, films, advertisement, or social media. It plays a pivotal role in shaping our understanding of gender. It constructs narrative, reinforces stereotype, and influences societal norms. In power picture, there are two types of representation, which is the positive and negative. So let's focus first on positive. It is the positive portrayals, challenge stereotype, and broaden our perspective. When media showcase strong, diverse female characters, it empowers women and girls. For example, Wonder Woman and the Hidden Figures. In Wonder Woman, a superhero defies gender norms, emphasizing strength, courage, and leadership. In Hidden Figures, it is a film celebrating the brilliant African American female mathematician at NASA. So let's talk about the negative representation. So what is the impact of negative representation? It is a harmful stereotype, perpetuate inequality. Media often portrays women as a violent, sexualized, submissive, or solely focused on appearance. For example, the damsel dress and the objectification. In downside, there is a trophy where women need rescuing by male heroes. In objectification, this advertisement reducing women to bad parts of promoting a realistic beauty standard. So let's move on to number two, the gender roles in advertising. Gender roles advertising, it is an advertisement shaped by desires, aspiration, and self-perception. They also reinforce traditional gender roles but first challenge them. In gender roles in advertising, there are also a positive and negative examples. Number one, in positive examples is the Dance Beauty Campaign, wherein celebrating diverse body types and challenging beauty norms. This is the Nike's film Crazy that they emphasize the empowering female athletes with barriers.
If we show emotion, we're called dramatic. If we want to play against men, we're nuts. And if we dream of equal opportunity, delusional. When we stand for something, we're unhinged.
And Sue Bird's going to need to calm down.
When we're too good, there's something wrong with us. And if we get angry, we're hysterical, irrational, or just being crazy. But a woman running a marathon was crazy.
Officials tried to pull her off the course.
A woman boxing was crazy. A woman dunking? Crazy. Coaching an NBA team? Crazy. A woman competing in a hit job, changing her sport, landing a double cork 1080? Or winning 23 Grand Slams, having a baby, and then coming back for more? Crazy, 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 and crazy. So if they want to call you crazy, fine. Show them what crazy can do.
So let's talk about the negative examples. First, the gender joy at big burgers and blue burgers that including or reinforcing stereotypes. An example is the household product ad often depict women as a primary caregivers and homemakers.
Good morning, everyone. Our next topic is media stereotypes. What is media stereotypes? Media stereotypes are simplified, often exaggerated representation of certain groups of people or communities that are perpetuated through various forms of media, including television, film, advertising, and literature. These stereotypes can be based on race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, religion, socioeconomic status, age, disability, or other characteristics. Media stereotypes can shape public perceptions and influence how individuals from marginalized groups are treated in society. They often reinforce existing biases and can lead to discrimination, prejudice, and inequality. Beauty standards. Media often perpetuates a narrow definition of beauty, emphasizing specific body types, skin tones, and features. Women are portrayed as flawless, thin, and conventionally attractive. So, sa case ng beauty standards, sinasabi na ang basehan ng mga tao or ng media ay kailangan ang babae always thin and attractive. May magandang kutis, may magandang mukha, ganun. So, there are consequences and strategies in beauty. The first one is consequences. Body image issues. Unrealistic beauty standards contribute to body dissatisfaction, eating disorders, and low self-esteem among women. Exclusion. Individuals who do not fit these standards may feel marginalized or invisible. So, in this case, a constant exposure to images of flawless can create an attainable ideal causing individuals to feel inadequate or ashamed of their own bodies. So, mahihiya na sila na hindi na nila tatanggapin yung kanilang sarili kasi iniisip nila yung sasabihin ng ibang tao. People who do not conform to these narrow beauty standards may experience feelings of exclusion or marginalization. When media consistently portrays only a specific type of beauty, it can make those who don't fit into the model feel invisible or unimportant. This exclusion can exacerbate feelings of low esteem, self-worth, and lead to social discrimination. But then there are strategies. Diverse representation showcase a wide range of body types, ages, and ethnicities. Challenge norms, feature characters who defy conventional beauty and standards, and celebrate uniqueness. By representing diversity, media can help break down stereotypes and show that beauty comes in many different forms. This can also help individuals feel represented and included, reducing feelings of inadequacy or marginalization. Another strategy is to feature characters who defy conventional beauty standards and celebrate uniqueness. By showcasing individuals who embrace their flaws and do not adhere to traditional beauty norms, media can challenge existing stereotypes and promote acceptance of diverse appearance. These strategies aim to promote more inclusive and positive representation of beauty in media and society, which can help mitigate and harmful consequences of narrow beauty standards. The next one is career choices. Media often assign gender-specific roles. Men are portrayed as CEOs, scientists, and leaders, while women are nurses, secretaries, or teachers. Sa nabanggit na men are portrayed as CEOs while women are nurses, secretaries, or teachers. So, dati, ganun yung mga binibigay na work lang sa mga kababaihan. Pero ngayon, may mga babae na nagtatrabaho na as CEOs, police, or etc. Kasi kayang gawin ng mga babae ang mga gawain ng panlalaki. Career consequences. Limiting aspirations. Reinforcing gendered career stereotypes restricts career choices for both men and women. Glass ceiling. Women face barriers in male-dominated fields due to these stereotypes. When media consistently portrays certain careers as being primarily for one gender, it can limit the career aspiration of individuals, particularly young people who are still forming their ideas about their future. For example, young girls may be less likely to pursue career in STEM fields, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, if they rarely see women represented in these roles in media. Strategies. Show diversity, depict women in STEM leadership and unconventional roles. Normalize men in caregiving roles. Challenge the notion that caregiving is solely a woman's responsibility. So, media can challenge this stereotype by showcasing a wider range of gender representation in various careers and professions. This means depicting women as CEOs, scientists, engineers, and leaders, and showing men in caregiving, teaching, and nurturing roles. By doing so, media can break down stereotypes and promote the idea that anyone, regardless of gender, can pursue any career that are interested in. Third one is family roles. Media often portrays women as primary caregivers and men as breadwinners. Traditionally, family structures prevail. So, in many forms of media, women are often shown in roles related to caregiving and homemaking. This includes taking care of children, managing household chores, and providing emotional support to family members. These roles are often portrayed as natural extensions of women's nurturing and empathetic qualities. And men are often depicted in media as the primary providers for their families. They are the one that works in the families, executives or laborers who can earn income to support their families financially. This portrayal reinforces the traditional notion of men as the primary earners and providers within the family unit. Consequences, gendered expectations. These stereotypes reinforce rigid gender roles, limiting individuals' choices. Work-life balance. Men may feel pressure to prioritize work over family. So, sinasabi dito na malilimit lang yung mga choices ng mga magulang. Kunyari, yung sa babae, nasa bahay lang siya, yung mga bata lang isipin niya. And sa lalaki naman, maaring ma-pressure siya sinasabi na kasi trabaho siya ng trabaho para sa pamilya niya, para sa pamilya, tulong. At maaari siyang mapagod ng todo or ma-stress kakaisip sa kanyang family. There are strategies naman ng shared responsibilities, show balanced parenting, and shared household duties, while the single parents portray diverse family structures beyond the nuclear model. Media can challenge this stereotype by portraying a more equitable division of roles and responsibilities within families. This means depicting men as actively involved in caregiving and household tasks, and women as capable of pursuing career and other interests outside of traditional caregiving roles. So, pwede rin na magtulungan yung parent para maging maayos ang kanilang family. Kunyari, tulungan sila sa pagtatrabaho, sa labas, or pag-aalaga ng bata, ganun. And also, media can also showcase a variety of family structures and dynamics, including single parents, households, same-sex parents, and families with non-traditional gender roles. By representing diverse family experience, media can help break down stereotypes and promote acceptance of different ways of organizing family life.
Intersexuality matters. Media tends to overlook intersexuality, the overlapping identities, race, intensity, sexuality that shape experiences. Ang konseptong ito ay nagbibigay liwanag sa komplikadong paraan kung paano nag-overlap ang isang mga sistema ng operasyon at diskriminasyon. Ito ay nagpapakita na ang ating mga karanasan sa mundo ay hindi nakabatay lamang sa isang aspeto ng ating pagkakakilanlan. Sa halip, ito ay ang produkto na maaaring intersecting factors na nagbibigay ng mas komprehensibo at nuanced sa pag-unawa sa mga isyu ng hindi pagkakapantay-pantay at discrimination. Consequences of intersexuality. Erasure tokenism. Erasure is ignoring intersexuality, erase that experience of marginalized groups. Tokenism is avoid token representation, instead authentically portray diverse characters. So, ang pagbubura ay tumutukoy sa hindi pagkakilala o pagbabaliwala sa mga karanasan at identidad ng mga tao, lalo na kapag ang kanilang buhay ay naapektuhan ng maraming overlapping na mas sistema sa operasyon. Ang halimbawa nito ay ang karanasan ng babae, isang itim na babae ay maaaring hindi ganap na kinikilala sa mga usapin ng rasismo na nakatuon lamang sa itim na lalaki o sa usapin ng sexism na nakatuon lamang sa puting kababaihan na nagre-resulta ng pagbubura ng kanyang espesipikong karanasan sa intersection na lahi at kasarian. At ang tokenism naman is ito ay ang superficial o symbolic na pagsisikap na maging inklusibo sa mga minorya o underrepresented na grupo sa pamamagitan ng limitadong repetasyon na kadalasang ginagawa para sa pagpapakita lamang at hindi tunay na nagtataguyod ng pagkakapantay-pantay o pagbago-bago. Halimbawa nito is yung pagkakaroon ng isang tao mula sa isang minoryang grupo sa isang organisasyon o sa isang event bilang token ay maaaring magpahiwatig na ang institusyon ay inklusibo habang sa katotohanan hindi ito nagbibigay ng tunay na kapangyarihan o pagbabago sa mga sistema ng operasyon na umiir. Ang mga consequences na ito ay pagbihang pagbubura at tokenism ay nagpapakita kung paano ang mga simpleng solusyon o mababaw na pagkakilala sa diversity ay hindi sapat para tugunan ang mga komplikadong isyu ng discrimination at hindi pagkakapantay-pantay. Sa halip ay kinakailangan ang isang mas malalim na pag-unaw at pagsasaalang-alang ng mga overlapping at identity at karanasan sa siyang tinutulungan ng mga intersectionality. Strategies of intersectionality, inclusive storytelling, explore layered identities and their impact, consult diverse voices, involve diverse creators and consultants. So, storytelling ay tumutukoy sa pagbabahagi at pagpapahalaga sa mga kwento mula sa iba't ibang pananaw, lalo na madalas na hindi napapansin o napapatahimik. Ang ganitong paraan ay hindi lamang pagpapalago ng empatsya at pag-unawa kundi hamon din sa mga nangingibabaw na naratibo na madalas na humuhubog sa ating pagtingin sa mundo. Sa pamamagitan ng pagdadala ng iba't ibang kwento, ang mga inclusive storytelling ay nagpapayaman sa ating kolektibong kaalaman at binibigyan din ng komplikadong realidad ang buhay ng mga ang pagkonsulta sa diverse voices ay tungkol sa aktibong paghahanap at pakikinig sa mga opinyon, pananaw at karanasan ng mga individual mula sa iba't ibang background. Kinikilala ng estratehiya ito na ang mga taong may iba't ibang pagkakakilanlan at karanasan ay may natatanging mahalagang perspektibo na maibabahagi, maging ito ay proseso ng paggawa ng desisyon, pagbuo ng patakaran o sa akademikong pananaliksik. Ang pagkonsulta sa diverse voices ay tinitiyak na ang mga iba't ibang aspeto ng lipunan ay sinasaalang-alang na humahantong sa mga resultang mas makatarungan, inklusibo at sumasailalim sa komplikadong karanasan ng tao. Media literacy education stereotype. Audience often internalize media message without critical analysis. Ito yung mga hindi man lang walang critical na pagsusuri. Ito naman yung media consequence, belief reinforcement, implicit bias. So, ang belief reinforcement, ito yung ang mga stereotype ay nagiging nakatanim na paniwala. Yun yung mga nakatanim na ang paniniwala nila doon. Tapos, ang implicit bias naman ay ito yung walang malay na bias ay nakakaapekto sa mga decision sa totoong mundo. Yung walang mga malay. At ang mga strategy naman ng media literacy education is media literacy programs, question assumption. So, ang media literacy program, turuan ng mga madla na mag-deconstruct ng mga salaysay ng media. Tapos, ang question assumption naman is hikayatin ng mga manonood na magtanong sino ang nakikinabang sa mga paglarawang ito. Yun yung question assumption yung marunong magtanong.
Let's move on to the third topic, gender and activism. Gender and activism are closely linked, especially when it comes to addressing societal norms about gender roles and expectations. This area of focus shed light on the importance of recognizing and questioning the standard views that often go unchallenged. The key subjects under discussion include a deep dive into what is considered normal for genders and how these norms can be questioned and reformed through active efforts. It's about understanding the usual patterns and then finding ways to make changes for the better. The goals here are to have a conversation about how these gender norms show up in everyday life and to see how taking action can lead to changes in society. It's about seeing the value in standing up for what's fair and pushing for a world where everyone is treated equally, no matter their gender.
What is heteronormativity? Heteronormativity refers to the societal assumption that heterosexuality, attraction to the opposite sex, is the default or normal sexual orientation. Reinforces the idea that relationships should follow a specific pattern. A man and a woman in a monogamous long-term partnership operates subtly, shaping our perceptions, language, and institutions. An example of heteronormativity could be the expectation that a romantic couple consists of one man and one woman, with traditional gender rules dictating the behavior and roles of each partner within the relationship. This assumption excludes and marginalizes relationships that fall outside of this heterosexual norm, such as same-sex couples or individuals who identify as non-binary or transgender. Ito ay isang paniniwala o sistema ng paniniwala na nagpapakita ng pagtanggap at pabor sa mga heterosexual na individual, samantalang hindi ito kasing pabor sa mga LGBTQ na tao. Ito ay maaaring may paliwanag bilang pagtanggap sa normalidad ng relasyon ng isang lalaki at isang babae bilang pangunahing modelo o batayan ng lipunan. Impact on LGBTQ individuals. Invisibility. Heteronormativity erases LGBTQ identities. Non-heterosexual individuals may feel invisible or excluded. Heteronormativity, which is the assumption that heterosexuality is the standard or default sexual orientation, can lead to the erasure of LGBTQ identities. This erasure occurs because societal norms, institutions, and cultural representations often prioritize and reinforce heterosexual relationships and identities while marginalizing or ignoring those that fall outside of this norm. As a result, non-heterosexual individuals may feel invisible or excluded within their communities and broader society. Their identities, experiences, and relationships may not be acknowledged or represented in mainstream media, education, or legal frameworks, reinforcing a sense of invisibility and marginalization. This lack of recognition can have profound effects on LGBTQ individuals' mental health, self-esteem, and sense of belonging, as they may feel invalidated or unseen in their own identities and experiences. The impact on LGBTQ individuals of stigma is stigma against LGBTQ individuals is the belief that their sexual orientation or gender identity is unnatural or immoral. This stigma can lead to discrimination in various aspects of life, including employment, housing, healthcare, and education. LGBTQ individuals may face prejudice, harassment, or violence due to societal attitudes that perceive their identities as deviant or inferior. Additionally, the stigma surrounding LGBTQ identities can lead to internalized homophobia or transphobia, where individuals may struggle with self-acceptance and experience feelings of shame or guilt about their own entity. Coming out pressure. The pressure to come out as LGBTQ can be significant and is often influenced by societal expectations, family dynamics, and personal experiences. LGBTQ individuals may feel compelled to come out in order to live
authentically and be true to themselves, but this decision can be fraught with anxiety and fear of rejection or discrimination. Impact on relationships. Heteronormativity prescribes gender rules within relationships, gendered rules, marriage norms. Because of this, the same-sex couples may feel excluded or invalidated by these norms. The impact on societal expectations in LGBTQ family structures is historically rigid norms and prejudices have marginalized non-traditional families, leading to discrimination, stigma, and legal barriers. However, increased visibility, advocacy, and legal recognition have gradually shifted societal attitudes, fostering greater acceptance and support for diverse family formations. Nevertheless, challenges like discrimination, lack of legal protections, and cultural resistance persist, influencing the experiences and well-being of LGBTQ individuals and their families. Media and representation. Societal expectations regarding LGBTQ individuals are significantly influenced by media representation. Historically, media often portrayed LGBTQ individuals stereotypically or negatively, reinforcing societal prejudices and discrimination. However, in recent years, there has been a notable increase in diverse and positive LGBTQ representation across various forms of media. This shift has helped challenge stereotypes, increase visibility, and promote acceptance and understanding within society. Positive representation can empower LGBTQ individuals, provide role models, and contribute to greater societal acceptance and support. Education. Societal expectations play a significant role in shaping LGBTQ education. Historically, education systems have often overlooked or marginalized LGBTQ experiences, contributing to stigma, discrimination, and lack of support of LGBTQ students. However, there has been a growing recognition of the importance of inclusive education that acknowledges and respects diverse sexual orientations and gender identities. Efforts to incorporate LGBTQ inclusive curriculum, provide support services, and foster safe and affirming school environments have aimed to challenge stereotypes, promote acceptance, and support the well-being of LGBTQ students. Nevertheless, challenges such as resistance from conservative groups, lack of teacher training, and gaps in policy implementation continue to impact LGBTQ education experiences. Need for awareness and inclusivity. Raise awareness about heteronormativity in schools, workplaces, and communities. Use inclusive language that acknowledges diverse sexual orientations and gender identities. Representation, legal and policy changes. Breaking down assumptions. Dismantling heteronormativity requires collective effort. Let's celebrate love and relationships in all their beautiful forms, recognizing that diversity enriches our world.
My name is Hazel M. Buelba. My topic is challenging heteronormativity. Number 1, pride movements. Pride movements, often associated with colorful parades and celebrations, go beyond mere festivities. So, ang pride movements po, ito po ay mga social at pampulitikang kilusan na naglalayong itaguyod ang mga karapatan, pagkakakilanlan at pagtanggap ng mga LGBTQ+ na individual. Sila ay isang makapangyarihang pwersa para sa pagbabago ng lipunan at patuloy na lumalaban para sa pantay na karapatan at katarungan sa lahat ng LGBTQ+ individual. Success stories. Marriage equality. Ang marriage equality, ito po ay tumutukoy sa pagkilala ng batas sa parehong kasal ng mga magkakasarian o same-sex marriage. Ang marriage equality, ito po ay isang prinsipyo at adhikain na naglalayong magbigay ng pantay na karapatan, proteksyon at benepisyo sa mga mag-asawa kahit na sila ay parehong kasarian. Next, visibility. Ang visibility ay tumutukoy po sa particular na individual, grupo o isyong panglipunan. Sa konteksto po ng LGBTQ+ community, ang visibility ay nakikita at napapansin ng mga tao, ang mga LGBTQ+ individual at mga karanasan sa buhay. Halimbawa po ng visibility sa konteksto ng LGBTQ+ community ay pagtangkilik at suporta. Ang visibility po ay nagbibigay ng pagkakataon sa mga taong nais na suportahan ng LGBTQ+ community na magpakita ng kanilang suporta at pagmamahal. Sa pamamagitan nito ay nagkakaroon ng mga pagkakataon para sa mga tao na maging kaalyado at tumayo para sa mga karapatan ng LGBTQ+ individual. Ongoing challenges. Intersectionality, ito naman ay isang konsepto na nagpapahalaga sa ugnayan at kahalagahan ng iba't ibang pagkakakilanlan tulad ng kasarian, lahi, uri at iba pa. At kung paanong mga ito ay nagkakasama-sama upang makabuo ng isang mas malalim na karanasan ng diskriminasyon at pribilehiyo. Halimbawa, ang isang babae na may karanasang pangrasismo ay maaaring makaranas ng ibang uri ng diskriminasyon kumpara sa isang babaeng maputi na hindi nagkaroon ng karanasang pangrasismo. Ang pagkakakilanlan bilang isang babae at ang pagkakakilanlan bilang isang tao ay magkahiwalay na papel sa kanilang mga karanasan ng diskriminasyon. Next, global context. Alam naman po natin na ang global context ay tumutukoy sa pangkalahatang sitwasyon, issue at ugnayan na nagaganap sa buong mundo. Ito ay naglalagay ng mga pangyayari at mga issue sa isang malawak na perspektibo na tumatalakay sa pandaigdigan at ugnayan ng mga bansa at mga komunidad. Halimbawa, issue sa global context ng LGBTQ ay diskriminasyon at pangapi sa kanila. Kailangan po ay magkaroon tayo ng mas malawak na kamalayan at pag-unawa sa mga pangyayari at mga issue. LGBTQ+ visibility campaigns. Ang LGBTQ+ visibility campaigns ay isang kampanya na naglalayong palakasin ang mga LGBTQ+ individual sa lipunan. Layunin ng kampanyang ito na mabigyan ng mas malawak na pagkilala, pag-unawa at pagtanggap ang LGBTQ+ community. Success stories. It Gets Better Project. Ang It Gets Better Project ay nagbibigay suporta, inspirasyon at pag-asa para sa mga kabataang LGBTQ. Ang mga pangunahing layunin ng It Gets Better Project ay magbigay ng suporta. Ang proyekto ay naglalayong magbigay ng suporta sa mga kabataang LGBTQ+ na maaaring nagdurusa sa pangapi, diskriminasyon o bullying. Ito po ay nagpapahayag na mayroong mga taong nagmamahal at sumusuporta sa kanila at sila ay hindi nag-iisa sa kanilang mga pinagdaraanan. Next, Visible Me. Ang layunin ng Visible Me ay palakasin ang visibility at pagkilala ng mga individual sa LGBTQ+ community. Ito po ay isang kampanya o kilusan sa social media na naglalayong ipakita at ipahayag ang mga kwento, karanasan at pagkakakilanlan ng mga LGBTQ+ individual. Ongoing challenges, representation. Ang representation ay tumutukoy sa pagiging presentasyon o pagpapakita ng isang particular na grupo, sektor o karanasan sa iba't ibang aspeto ng lipunan, tulad ng media, sining, politika at iba pa. Ito ay ang paraan ng pagpapahayag o paglalarawan ng mga individual o grupo upang maipakita ang kanilang mga karanasan, paniniwala at pagkakakilanlan. Next, safety. Ang safety o kaligtasan ay tumutukoy sa kalagayan ng pagiging ligtas at protektado mula sa panganib, pinsala o anumang sitwasyon na maaaring magdulot ng kapahamakan o pagkabahala. Ito ay isang pangunahing pangangailangan ng mga individual at komunidad upang mabuhay ng may katahimikan at kapanatagan. Policy advocacy activists work tirelessly to change law and policies that discriminates against LGBTQ+ individuals. Ang policy advocacy po ay ang proseso ng pagtataguyod para sa mga partikular na patakaran o mga pagbabago upang tugunan ang mga isyong panlipunan. Isang halimbawa ng advocacy policy ay ang kampanya para sa pagpasa ng batas na nagbibigay ng proteksyon at karapatan sa mga manggagawang LGBTQ+ sa lugar ng trabaho. Ang pagtataguyod ng ganitong uri ng patakaran ay naglalayong matiyak na ang mga LGBTQ+ employees ay hindi maaring madiskrimina o mabiktima ng pang-aapi sa kanilang trabaho dahil sa kanilang kasarian o pagkakakilanlan. Success stories. Decriminalization. Ang decriminalization ay tumutukoy sa pag-alis o pagbabawas ng mga kriminal na batas o mga parusa para sa isang partikular na kilos. Decriminalization ng sexual na mga kilos, ito ay nagre-refer sa pag-alis o pagbabawas ng mga kriminal na parusa para sa mga sexual na kilos na hindi sang-ayon sa tradisyonal na moralidad o mga batas. Halimbawa nito ay ang decriminalization ng homosexualidad at iba pang mga sexual na pagkakakilanlan na noon ay itinuturing na mga krimen sa ilang mga bansa. Gender Recognition Law. Ang Gender Recognition Law, ito po ay isang batas o patakaran na naglalayong magbigay ng legal na pagkilala at proteksyon sa mga transgender at iba pang mga individual na may iba't ibang mga karanasan ng pagkakakilanlan sa kasarian. Ongoing challenges. Conversion therapy. Ang conversion therapy, na kilala rin bilang reparative therapy o gay cure therapy, ay isang controversial na layuning baguhin ang sexualidad o gender identity ng isang tao. Ito ay karaniwang isinasagawa sa mga LGBT na may layuning baguhin ang kanilang pagkakakilanlan o mapilitan ang kanilang sexualidad upang umayon sa heterosexual na normal. Next, trans right. Ang trans right o karapatan ng mga trans ay tumutukoy sa mga pagsusumikap na matiyak na ang mga taong trans o mga taong hindi sumasang-ayon sa kasarian na ibinigay sa kanila nung sila ay pinanganak, sila ay parehong mga karapatan at proteksyon na tinatamasa ng lahat ng mga tao. Importance of allyship. Allies are non-LGBTQ+ individuals who actively support the community. Ang importance of allyship. Ang allyship o pagiging kaalyado ay isang mahalagang konsepto sa mga usapin ng karapatang pantao at pagkakapantay-pantay. Ito po ay tumutukoy sa aksyon ng pagtatanggol at pagsuporta sa mga grupong nasa ilalim ng diskriminasyon at oppression. Success stories, parents, and families. Ang pag-advocate po ng mga magulang sa kanilang mga anak tungkol sa LGBTQ+ ay mahalaga para sa maraming kadahilanan. Number 1 ay pag-unawa at respeto. Ang pagtuturo tungkol sa LGBTQ+ ay nagbibigay daan para sa mas malalim na pag-unawa at respeto sa iba't ibang uri ng kasarian. Next, corporate allies. Ang corporate allies ay mga kumpanya or organisasyon na aktibong sumusuporta at nagtatanggol sa karapatan ng mga grupong madalas na nasa ilalim ng diskriminasyon. Halimbawa, ang isang corporate ally para sa LGBTQ+ community ay maaaring mayroong mga pulisya na nagtataguyod ng pagkakapantay-pantay sa trabaho, nagbibigay ng mga benepisyo para sa mga kasarian ng kanilang mga empleyado o nagbibigay suporta sa mga kawanggawa na nagtataguyod ng karapatan ng LGBTQ+. Ang mga corporate allies ay mahalaga dahil sila ay may malaking impluwensya at kapangyarihan na maaaring gamitin upang makagawa ng positibong pagbabago. Ongoing challenges, educating allies. So, Ang educating allies ay isang konsepto na tumutukoy sa proseso ng pagtuturo at pagbibigay ng kaalaman sa mga tao upang maging mas maunawaan at maunawaan ang mga isyu ng diskriminasyon sa konteksto ng mga LGBTQ+. Next, intersectional allyship. So, ang intersectional allyship ay isang konsepto kung saan ang mga kaalyado ay sumusuporta at nagtatanggol sa mga individual na kabilang sa iba't ibang marginalized na grupo. Sa pamamagitan ng pagsasagawa ng intersectional allyship, ang mga individual ay maaaring magtulungan upang lumikha ng isang mas inklusibo at makatarungan na lipunan para sa lahat. The ripple effect. Ang ripple effect ay nagpapakita kung paano ang isang simpleng aksyon o kilos ng isang tao o grupo ay maaaring magdulot ng positibong pagbabago sa mas malawak na saklaw. Ang maliit na pagbabago o suporta mula sa isang individual o organisasyon ay maaaring magbunga ng mas malalim at mas malawakang pagbabago sa lipunan sa pamamagitan ng pagkalat ng kaalaman, suporta at inspirasyon sa iba. Halimbawa, ang pagiging isang maayos na kaalyado para sa LGBTQ+ community ng isang tao sa kanilang trabaho ay maaaring magdulot ng ripple effect sa kanilang kapaligiran. Sa pamamagitan ng pagpapalawak ng kaalaman at pag-unawa sa LGBTQ+ issues, pagbibigay inspirasyon sa iba na sumuporta at pagtulak ng pagbabago sa pulisya o kultura ng kanilang organisasyon. Educational institution. Ang educational institution na isang institution o organisasyon na naglalayong magbigay ng edukasyon at pagtuturo sa mga mag-aaral. Ang mga membro ng LGBTQ+ community ay may access sa edukasyon na nagbibigay ng pag-unawa, respeto at suporta sa kanilang pagkakakilanlan. Next, healthcare and mental health. Ang pangangailangan ng healthcare and mental health services para sa LGBTQ+ community ay napakahalaga. Halimbawa, mental health support. Ang mga miyembro ng LGBTQ+ community ay may mas mataas na tsansang magkaroon ng mental health challenges tulad ng depression, anxiety at iba pang mga issues sa kalusugan ng isip. Ang access sa mental health services na sensitibo sa kanilang pangangailangan ay mahalaga upang matulungan silang magkaroon ng tamang suporta at pangangalaga. Activism in action. Activism against heteronormativity is a collective effort. Let's celebrate progress, acknowledge ongoing challenges, and continue supporting each other. Allies play a crucial role. Your voice matters. Yun lamang po. Thank you.
The last topic is gender and other cross-cutting issues. Exploring this theme opens up a conversation about the influence of gender on various aspects of society. It's an important area that touches on how gender shapes experiences and outcomes in education, health, and mental well-being. The focus areas include examining the role gender plays in educational opportunities and achievements, its impact on physical health and access to health care, as well as its connection to mental health concerns. These topics are crucial for understanding the broader implications of gender on individual and societal levels. The intent behind this exploration is to unpack the reasons why considering gender is essential when looking at broader social challenges. It's also about recognizing the complex ways in which gender intersects with education and health, including mental health, to appreciate the depth and breadth of its influence on these critical areas.
Miss Marian Salcaon-Silan, and I am here para i-discuss itong mga initiatives to promote gender-inclusive education. So, alright, initiatives na ito ay it's all about making education fair and inclusive for everyone regardless kung anong gender pa yan. Meron tayong two. We have the Gender and Development, or what we call GAD program. It requires government agencies to spend a part of their budget on programs that supports gender equality. So, this program ay naglalaan sila ng budget para isupport ang gender equality. Sabi nga ay, it's not just about saying na they want equality between genders, but actually doing something about it by putting resources where they are needed the most. We also have the Alternative Learning System, or ALS. It helps people who can't go to regular schools like young mothers by offering flexible education options. So we have also ALS. Think of it as a flexible school option para sa mga kapwa natin who can go to regular schools. It's like an opening door for them na feeling nila na education wasn't an option for them. And those group, or one of those groups that benefits a lot from ALS ay yung mga young mothers natin. Imagine yung pag-juggle nila sa pag-aalaga ng mga anak nila and at the same time pag-aaral, di ba? So yun, ALS Center, hindi lang din siya a place to study. They're like community hubs din, o minsan they offer support beyond classroom. Like may counseling sila, mayroong mga skill building workshops, plus they are often tailored to fit different needs and schedules. Like they offer night classes para sa mga estudyante nila na may work during the day. So it's not just about learning basic math and English for them. It's about growing as a person and feeling supported every step of the way. So, another great thing then about these initiatives, they are not just about fixing problems. They are about preventing. They are about preventing them too. Kasi by giving everyone equal access to education, parang we are building a future where those stereotypes and inequalities are a thing na nung nakaraan pa. Like, it's like planting seeds na mag-change and soon will grow into more equal and inclusive society. So, these policies like GAD program and hands-on support like the ALS, these initiatives are changing lives talaga and shaping a brighter future for everyone. Strategies na pwede natin gawin in order to bridge gender disparities. We have community programs. We also have scholarships and financial help. Let's start with community programs. Sabi ito, it aims to change the way people think about gender roles and encourage equal opportunities for boys and for girls. So may mga programs na nakadesign para matackle yung mga gender disparities. Tsaka kung paano naaapektuhan nun yung mga societal attitudes and perceptions natin. So, they often, nagsasagawa sila or nag-involve ng community engagement, such as activities like workshop, seminar, or awareness campaign na nag-i-aim na para ma-challenge ba yung traditional gender roles and also to promote the idea of equal opportunities para sa lahat ng gender. Pang example niyan is may mga programs that might organize sessions to discuss gender stereotypes and their impact, or nag-showcase sila ng mga successful na individuals who defy gender norms in their careers. So by fostering dialogues and raising awareness within communities, these programs aims to create a more supportive and inclusive environment for girls and for boys to pursue their education and career aspirations. We also have scholarship and financial help. It encourages girls to go to college or pursue careers that are typically dominated by men. Financial barriers kasi significantly hinihinder niya yung mga siguro mostly sa research kababaihan to access education and their career opportunities, especially in the regions na yung mga resources are limited lang talaga. So scholarship and financial assistance targeted specifically at girls aim to na mababawasan man lang yung burden by providing funding sa mga tuition fees nila, sa textbooks, transportations, and other educational expenses. So itong mga gantong initiatives, it do not only make education more accessible, but also send a powerful, siguro, ini-empower din siguro yung na girls ay na mag-aral, diba? Na ang mga girls ay valued and supported. So by removing financial obstacles, these programs empower girls to pursue their academic and career goals without the worry na mayroong mga financial hardships holding them back. So aside from that, we also have a program sample na na-research namin. Ang nakalagay doon ay Educate Girls Program. So sabi doon, the Educate Girls Program, nagsaserve daw yun as a concrete example pang kung yung mga strategies na kayang-kaya naman talagang i-implement effectively. So that program goes beyond simply providing financial assistance by offering mentorship, support para sa mga kabaihan from disadvantaged backgrounds. So, yung mga mentorings na yon ay nagpa-provide ng guidance and encouragement na tumutulong sa mga kabaihan to navigate those challenges and stay motivated, of course, in their educational journey. Additionally, that program, it works closely with families and communities to address yung mga cultural barriers ba that may prevent girls from attending school. So, yung Educate Girls program na yun has been successful in improving educational outcomes for girls and promoting gender equality sa mga communities natin. So, these strategies, community programs, and scholarship and financial help, nakaka-address talaga siya ng mga gender disparities. So, siguro by combining efforts to challenge societal norms, provide financial support, offer mentorship, we can create an environment na yung mga girls have equal opportunities to fulfill their potential and to contribute sa ating society. Here, a given sample case study or like sample situation law na nakadesign para ma-promote yung gender equality and create a supportive environment para sa lahat ng genders within school. So, Quezon City has a law that requires schools to create a fair environment for all genders. Teachers are trained to be more aware of gender issues and schools are encouraged to support girls in exploring non-traditional career paths like science and engineering. So sa Quezon City, they have this thing na gender fair ordinance. Diba? Sana sa lahat meron. Sabi dito doon ni Quezon City Mayor Joy Belmonte, ang Quezon City ay ang unang lungsod na may gender fair ordinance upang protektahan ang karapatan ng mga miyembro ng LGBT+. We do not support any kind of violence and discrimination in our city. Sa atin pong LGBT+ community, protektado ang karapatan nyo sa QC. So, under this ordinance, schools are required to implement measures to ensure the fairness siguro at saka ang equal treatment for both girls and boys. And of course, the LGBT+. So, teachers undergo training para ma-increase yung awareness nila of gender issues and para ma-enable them na to address the diverse needs and challenges na na-face ng students sa mga schools. By being more knowledgeable about gender-related concerns, yung mga teachers can better support students, of course, and foster a more inclusive learning environment for them. Isa pa, itong gender fair ordinance kasi ina-encourage din nila yung mga school to actively support girls para ma-explore yung mga, sabi nga ay, non-traditional career paths like science and engineering, di ba? So this initiative, nag-aim siya to break the gender stereotype and to empower girls to pursue their interests and aspirations without limitations based on traditional gender roles. So parang this law or this ordinance, it promotes diversity in schools, career choices, school nagko-contribute yung mga schools into creating a more equitable society where individuals are free to pursue their passions regardless ng mga gender norms na kinalakihan natin. For example, this ordinance, it includes, sabi ito as anti-discrimination measure para ma-ensure of course na yung mga school ay safe at when I welcome yung kung ano man yung kung saan man free yung kanilang mga students. It prohibits bullying, harassment, discrimination based on gender identity, expression, with strict penalties for offenders. So these measures help to create a culture of respect and acceptance within school where every student feels valued and supported regardless of their gender. Kasi may mga kilala din ako, this school na mga hindi na tumuloy ng pag-aaral ng mga members ng LGBTQIA+, na dahil pinagbabawalan ng school na bawat pumasok ang mga backlash ng mahaba ang buhok, ng naka-lipstick, ng nakapambabae suot, like that. So, parang napipigilan sila na i-express yung sarili nila. And so, they decided na mag-transfer ng school or mag-drop out na lang. So, in this kind of gender fair ordinance, na-embrace or na-empowered lahat, babae, lalaki, or member na LGBT+, na ma-accept para ma-feel valued sila at ma-support regardless of their gender kasi ang pag-aaral ay pag-aaral. So this Quezon City Gender Fair Ordinance, it represents a proactive approach sa pagpopromote ng mga gender equality, and it creates a inclusive educational environment. So by addressing gender-related issues, supporting non-traditional career paths sa mga kababaihan, and implementing anti-discrimination measures. So the ordinance na ito, it strives to build a more equitable society na kung saan everyone has equal opportunities to thrive and succeed. So napakaganda nga niyang na ordinance, di ba? Para ma-close siguro yung gap in education between sa boys and girls, everyone needs to work together, of course. It call up to action for teachers, school administrations, and policymakers to create more inclusive and supportive schools like sa ginawa ni Mayor Belmonte sa Quezon City. So, siguro we need a collective effort to address the disparities in education between boys and girls by mobilizing various stakeholders like sa mga teachers, yan nga, sa school administration, policymakers man yan, at of course sa mga community members. In order para ma-bridge yung gap, we need to work together towards creating more inclusive and supportive learning environments. So, maybe it involves implementing strategies, initiatives na nagpo-promote ng gender equality para ma-ensure din na lahat ng student, regardless ng gender nila, have equal access to quality education. So sa mga teachers, they play a crucial role in fostering gender-inclusive classrooms by dapat ina-address nila na walang mga biases sa loob ng classroom, promoting diversity and providing support tailored to the needs of each student. Yung mga school administrators naman, sila naman yung dapat responsible sa pag-create ng mga policies, pag-practice ng mga policies, na nagpo-promote ng gender equality. Like, mag-implement ng anti-bullying policies, measures, provide ng resources para sa mga kababaihan to explore ng traditional career paths. And sa report niya sa kaninang report na maglaan ng resources para hindi gaano maging uncomfortable para sa mga kababaihan yung pagpasok. Like, magkaroon ng kabukod na restroom, comfort room sa bawat boys and for girls. And of course, they must ensure equal opportunities for participation ng extracurricular activities na hindi porket boys sila lang yung pwede sumali sa sports, ganun. Parang mabigay din kayo equal opportunities for girls. So sa policymakers naman, siguro they are urged na sila yung mag-enact ng mga legislation para at mag-allocate siguro ng resources para ma-resolve at mag-support din sa gender-inclusive education initiatives na maiisip ng ating mga teachers or ng mga administrators. This may include mga funding programs na mag-improve or sa pag-i-improve ng access to quality education, lalo na sa mga marginalized groups natin, di ba? And promote teacher training sa mga gender-sensitive topics. Mag-conduct din ng research siguro to identify and to address gaps in educational outcomes. So, isa lang yun sa mga way or guide itong mga efforts na to. In reference sa official reports ng Philippine Commission on Women. So, yung mga reports na to ay provided na yung mga valuable insight into the progress made toward achieving gender equality education and highlight areas that are still require attention. So, we just need to elevate the data at mag-recommend pa ng iba pang mga magagandang initiatives para mas lalong maging equal yung boys and girls. So this call to action is mahalaga to collect collective actions and collaborations to create more equitable and inclusive education system kung saan every student, every child, regardless of their gender, has the opportunity to go to school and to thrive and succeed. So, doon na nagsasum up siguro yung lesson or yung topic po namin about gender and education. Thank you.
Good morning, ma'am. I am Kelly Raday Nobejas from AV Political Science 1. So, my topic is about health outcomes and gender. The rules and ideas society has about men and women can really affect their health. So, yung mga ideas po na patungkol sa ating mga kababaihan at mga kalalakihan ay talagang nakakapekto sa ating mga mental health. Kasi dahil nga po tayo po ay tao lang din naman at tayo ay nakakaramdam din minsan ng sakit. So, yun. For example, how long people live and how often they get sick can be different for men and women. Also, men and women might not go to the doctor the same way. Maybe one goes more often or takes better care of their health. So, kahit po pala sa pagkakaroon ng sakit ay magkaiba ang kababaihan sa kalalakihan dahil minsan, ang iba na mga babae ay talagang pumupunta sa doktor para magpa-check up. At minsan naman sa mga lalaki ay dahil kasi sa mga lalaki medyo mahiyain, ang iba ay hindi gaanong nagpapa-check up. Pero syempre, yung pagpapa-check up naman na yun ay depende pa rin yun syempre sa pera. Kasi paano ka naman makakapagpa-check up kung wala kang pera? Access to healthcare. Sometimes, what people think is normal for men and women. Women can stop women from getting the health care they need. It's really important for women to have safe care when they're having babies. They also need to be able to choose if they want to have kids and have access to things like birth control. So, sa healthcare naman po, syempre, dahil ako po ay babae, ngunit ako pa ay wala pang anak, pero sa aking mga napapanood at based sa mga kinukwento ng ibang mga nanay ay talagang yung pag-aanak ay yan ay nasa isang babae. Kasi syempre, kung gusto mo mag-anak, bakit hindi? Pero kung ayaw mo mag-anak, yun ay decision mo rin. Kasi nga, nasa iyo yan. So, katulad sa lalaki, kung gusto mong magkaroon ng pamilya, syempre, hahanap ka ng iyong mapapangasawa upang bumuo ng pamilya. Pero kung ayaw mo naman at hindi ka pa ready, so, pwedeng hindi ka maghanap. So, ang lahat po ng yun ay syempre, nasa decision po ng isang tao. Maternal mortality. Having a baby can be risky, especially for women who live far from hospitals or don't have much money. They might not get the help they need when they're giving birth. To fix this, we need better healthcare systems, more checkups for pregnant women, and quick help when there's an emergency. So, yun nga po, katulad ng akin pong sinabi kanina, na based sa mga kwento at sa mga napapanood natin, ay talagang ang pagiging buntis o ang pagkakaroon ng bata sa iyong sinapupunan ay talagang mahirap. Ito ay napaka-delikado. Kasi nga, yung iba nga ay talagang minsan ay namamatay, yung iba naman kailangang isesaryan para lamang mailabas ng maayos yung bata. So, parang dun pa lang sa part na yun ay talagang bilang babae ay talagang napakahirap na kasi yung syempre yung pagbubuo ng bata na dadalhin mo sa iyong sinapupunan ng 9 na buwan hanggang sa mailabas ay napakahirap. Kaya ang kailangan po ng ating mga kababaihan, especially na mga nanay na buntis, ay kailangan nila sa ating mga barangay, kailangan ng healthcare system, na mga libreng check-up, lalo na sa mga malalayong mga lugar, katulad ng mga pahulo, ganun. So, dapat po tayo ay magkaroon ng mga libreng check-up o kaya naman ay kailangan po natin silang yung mapuntahan doon kahit siguro mga ilang beses lamang sa isang taon upang masuri ang kanilang mga kalagayan. Gender-specific health concerns. Men and women can have different health problems. Yun nga po, katulad po sabi ko kanina na ang lalaki po at babae ay magkaiba sa kanila pong pag-iisip. Meron pong iba na kayang lagpasan ng problema at meron naman pong iba na minsan ay hindi kayang lagpasan. So, depende po yun sa isang tao. Women need to watch out for things like breast and cervical cancer. So, yun nga po, sa atin po mga kababaihan ay dahil mayroon po tayong mga breast, ay minsan po ay dapat po nating i-check kasi po, yung parang sa pagkakaalam ko ay halos marami ang mga kababaihan natin na namamatay sa breast cancer. Siyempre, hindi lamang sa breast, atin din po kailangan na ating i-check up ang ating cervical kasi meron po mga babae na nagkakaroon ng sakit sa cervical, which is yung merong PCOS, yung mga hindi nagdinudugo, o may namang dinudugo. So, kailangan din po natin ng check-up. At sa lalaki naman ay kailangan nilang ipa-check ang kanilang prostate. Kasi nga, yung meron pong mga cases na mga lalaki na yung nalulustusan po. At both men and women can get osteoporosis. So, yung osteoporosis po ito po ay isang sakit sa buto sa likod na kung saan inyong pag ikaw ay nagkasakit sa buto ay parang ikaw ay magiging mahina. At higit sa lahat ay kailangan nilang magpa-check up at kailangan nilang ayusin sa kanilang mga sarili na sila ay hindi magkakaroon ng HIV o AIDS. Dahil alam naman po nating lahat ang HIV, ito ay isang sakit na nakakahawa sa pagtatalik at hanggang ngayon po sa ating panahon ngayon ay talaga pong wala pa ditong gamot na lunas. Mayroon pa lang po na parang makapag-prevent pero wala pa yung talagang cure na gamot. So, kailangan at paalala sa ating lahat, hindi lamang sa kababaihan, kundi sa kalalakihan na kailangan natin talagang mag-ingat at kailangan magpa-check up para sa ating kalusugan. Unraveling the connections. Achieving health for all necessities, recognizing gender as a critical determinant. By addressing gender-specific needs, promoting equity and challenging norms, we can create healthier societies. So yun po, kailangan na ating inatak sa ating sarili na ang ating pong kalusugan ay mahalaga. Ako nga po ay naniniwala sa kasabihan na health is wealth, na mas mahalaga pa po ang ating kalusugan sa yaman sa mundo, sapagkat ito po ang ating pundasyon sa ating buhay, kaya kailangan po nating panatilihing tayo po ay malusog at maayos, sapagkat ang buhay po ay isang beses lang sa ating pinagkakaloob ng ating Diyos. So, kailangan hanggang bata pa lang po, sinasabi nila na mag-exercise na, mag-inom ng mga vitamins, at kumain ng mga gulay upang maging malakas. To make everyone healthy, we need to understand that being a man or a woman affects health a lot. We should make sure health is fair, help everyone based on their needs, and try to change old ideas about men and women. So bilang conclusion at summarize ay tayo pong lahat ay talagang kailangan ng patnubay din, syempre ng ating mga magulang, at kailangan din nating alagaan ang ating sarili. Sapagkat katulad ng aking sinabi na ang ating pong kalusugan ay isang beses lang sa ating ipinagkakaloob. Kaya habang bata pa lang tayo ay atin dapat itong patilihing healthy upang sa gayon po ay tayo po ay sa ating pagtanda ay tayo ay makapagbuhay pa ng mahaba. At ilang po at thank you so much.
Good day everyone! To Ma'am Zapata, I'm Jessica Anokson from Group 4 and I am here to discuss my part about gender and mental health. So, how does gender affect mental health and what is the connection between these two? Gender perspective on mental health. Gender norms, roles, and inequalities significantly impact mental health outcomes. So, in any various ways, gender norms, roles, and equalities significantly impact mental health outcomes. Maraming tao, mapababae man o lalaki, ang nahihirapan i-express kung sino o ano ba talaga ang gusto nila. And because of that, naapektuhan ng kanilang mental health. Halimbawa na lang sa gender norms, nagkakaroon ng kadalasang pagdidikta or expectation sa kung ano yung tamang behavior ng isang kasarian na umaabot sa pagkakaroon ng stress or anxiety o pagkabalisa. Sa gender inequalities naman, like pagkakaiba ng access sa resources, mga opportunities, power, nagre-result din ito sa mababang self-esteem and depression. Women and mental health. Higher prevalence, women have higher rates of mental illnesses compared to men globally. So, sinasabi na ang mga babae ang mas madalas na nakakaranas ng depression and anxiety, lalo na pagdating ng adulthood. So, there are debates exist whether mental illnesses result from biological vulnerabilities or are influenced by environmental factors. So, in biological vulnerabilities, dito pumapasok yung puberty. Like yung mood swings during menstrual cycle ng isang babae or kaya naman during and after pregnancy na nagre-resulta sa pagtaas ng risk sa prenatal and postnatal depression. So, meron tayong tinatawag na postpartum depression na nangyayari after manganak ng isang babae. So, ang postpartum, ito ay mas intense and mas tumatagal siya. So, here are the symptoms of the postpartum depression. Yung madalas na pag-iyak, feelings of anger, withdrawing from loved ones, feeling distant from your baby, worrying or overly anxious, thinking about hurting yourself or your baby, doubting your ability to care for your baby. So, ilan lamang yan sa mga mental health illness na nararanasan ng isang babae. Men and mental health. Men may underreport mental health issues due to societal expectation of emotional stoicism. Men are expected to be emotionally stable and have strong, independent, and self-reliant demeanor. Bilang isang lalaki, they are encouraged to define themselves in opposition to women by concealing their own health needs and refusing to seek care to conform and to the socially prescribed male role. Ang mga lalaki, they are hesitant to seek professional help kasi nga, dahil sa gendered role conflict. Dahil nga expected na isang lalaki ay dapat isang malakas, matalino, yung tipong di nawawala na pag-asa. Dahil doon napipressure ang mga lalaki to suppress their emotion and deal with their struggles alone, leading to feel of isolation and inadequacy. Men are prone to certain conditions. Example, yung mga substance abuse, suicide. So, bakit? Kasi, ito yung mga ginagamit nila to cope with their depression. So, men are not fond of talking about their mental health problems or illness. They also use escapist behavior, katulad ng nilulunod nila ang kanilang sarili sa kanilang trabaho or kaya naman nililibang nila ito through sports. So, mas preferred nila yung ganun yung gagawin nila kesa ang humanap ng tulong mula sa mga professional. Societal expectations and stigma. Societal expectations often pressure men and women to conform to specific roles. So stereotyping and stigma is making it difficult for individuals to seek help and support. And because of expected behavior from men and women, mas nahihirapan silang i-express yung nararamdaman nila. So mapababae man o lalaki, they are affected of stigmatization. Like in women, their fear of being labeled as emotional or unstable. Sa lalaki naman, their fear of appearing weak or vulnerable. Women might be scared of being called too emotional if they share their feelings, and men might be worried about seeming weak. This fear can stop people from getting the help they need, which can make things worse. At yun po ang aking part na i-report para sa topic na ito. Maraming salamat po.
So, good morning everyone. My name is Rachel Martel. So, my part is coping mechanism and gender. So, sa woman naman, sa number 1 is mostly ang mga babae ay mas humihingi sila ng comfort from their friends and their family when it comes to their problems. Mas comfortable sila na mailabas sa mga kaibigan nila yung mga kinikimkim nila na problems. But hindi lahat ng kababaihan nag-open up lang sila. It depends upon the situation. Yun yung magiging way nila to cope their problems. So, sa number 2 is, dito is ang mga kababaihan is mas emotional kaysa sa mga lalaki. Kapag nakaranas sila ng problema, kahit anong problema na mabigat sa kanilang dibdib, kadalasan iniiyak agad nila yon. Lahat naman tayo ng mga babae is masyado tayong sensitive at emotional when it comes to our problems in life. So, sa number 3 is dito naman kapag hindi na talaga kaya i-handle yung stress or anxiety ng isang babae, is nag-consult na agad sila sa doctors para malaman nila kung ano yung mga maaaring gawin para makope yung problem. So, sa men naman, sa number 1 is mostly sa mga lalaki, when they are facing challenges in life, for example, sa breakup, mas gusto nilang sarilihin yung problem sila. Kadalasan, mas gusto nila na wag mag-open up sa friends nila. Yung tipong akala mo okay lang sa kanila yung nangyari. Pero hindi natin alam, miyak din sila sa kwarto nila. So, sa number 2 is, mas binabaling ng mga lalaki yung problems nila sa mga kinagawian nilang gawin like basketball or kahit ano pang hilig nilang gawin para lamang makope yung problems nila. So, sa number 3 is, dito is natatakot sila na kapag nag-open up sila sa tao about sa feelings nila is natatakot sila na ma-judge or kung ano pa man. Kaya mas pinipili na sarilihin na lang. So, sa gender-sensitive mental health support naman, so sa number 1 is, we need to educate our communities about gender mental health para maging aware sila about sa topic. Para maging aware din sila kung paano at ano ang magiging coping mechanism ng isang tao when it comes to their problem. So, sa number 2, dito naman pwede din tayo gumawa ng programs para makapagbigay tayo ng kaalaman sa ating communities about sa gender mental health issue. So sa number 3 is dito is katulad lang din siya nung number 1 and 2 kung ating babalikan. So sa number 4 naman is we need to recognize this topic based on their gender or kung ano yung mga needs na dapat gawin kung paano ma-cope yung problems na yun based on their gender. So sa intersectionality matters, everyone has different parts of their identity like their gender, race, who they love, or if they have a disability. Mental health services should help everyone considering all these different parts of they are. So promoting gender sensitivity ay dapat alam ng bawat isa at dapat aware din tayo sa mga bagay na nakapaligid sa atin at dapat marunong tayo makiramdam. Bilang isang babae, dapat tayo ay aware din sa feelings ng kapwa natin babae. Kapag alam natin sensitive ang isang babae, tapos kung ano-ano pang sinasabi natin, so maaari tayong makasakit ng damdamin, hindi lamang sa babae kundi ganun din dapat sa mga lalaki. Dapat sa mga kababaihan at kalalakihan ay mayroong compassionate.